is in distress.
Alright, that was pretty cool. But remember when networks decided your favorite old shows needed a reboot and assumed some slick CGI would be enough to make up for weak writing, awkward casting, and characters with the personality of a houseplant? Yeah, we remember too. Today we're counting down 5 reboots that tried to bring classic TV back to life and somehow made it worse. Whether it was tone-deaf updates, sitcoms that forgot to be funny, or dramas that couldn't find their footing, these shows prove one thing. Just because you can reboot a beloved series doesn't mean you should. And hey, we know there are way more than 5, so if we missed a reboot that still haunts your streaming history, drop it in the comments. If there's enough interest, we'll do a part 2. Be sure to like and subscribe because it really does help the channel. Now, let's get into the countdown with number 5, Knight Rider, NBC. The original Knight Rider was lightning in a bottle. It was pure 80s magic that somehow made a talking Trans Am and a guy in a leather jacket feel like the coolest thing on television. From 1982 to 1986, David Hasselhoff and KITT gave us everything we wanted. Turbo boosts, smart-ass comebacks, and that perfect mix of high-tech fantasy and straightforward action. Sure, it was over the top, but that was kind of the point. William Daniels brought genuine wit to KITT's voice, and the show had this unshakable confidence in what it was. It was our Fast and the Furious before the Fast and Furious existed, and it earned every bit of its devoted following. Then, 2008 rolled around and NBC, sitting dead last in the ratings and getting desperate, decided to dust off Knight Rider for a new generation. Because nothing says cutting-edge TV like recycling your greatest hits from the Reagan era. The warning signs were there from the start. They kicked things off with a TV movie that brought back David Hasselhoff in what should have been a triumphant moment. Instead, we get this melancholy scene where the original Michael Knight shows up at his ex's funeral and finally meets his son. Then he delivers the classic line.
Told me one man can make a difference.
He then gives a cryptic "I hope so" when asked if they'll meet again and walks away back into retirement. Sure, the presumed backstory is that Michael Knight didn't raise his son to protect him from the dangers of his work, but the show never actually says that. Fans weren't thrilled seeing their childhood hero reframed as an absentee dad, noble intentions or not, and it was supposed to be this epic passing of the torch, but the whole thing just felt heavy and sad rather than inspiring. Justin Bruning as Mike Tracer looked like he should have been selling cell phone plans at the mall. He's got amnesia, daddy issues, and about as much charisma as a DMV employee. But a lot of fans, and more than a few critics, felt his performance was flat and that he lacked chemistry with Deanna Russo, who played his love interest, Sarah Grayman. She showed up to act, he showed up to squint and deliver exposition.
I don't remember what happened to me, Sarah. And I don't know why I don't remember, but I would never do anything to hurt you.
And Mike Tracer as a character? Same deal. Some fans liked the soldier-turned-agent angle, but others felt he was underwritten and lacked the charm or physical presence that made Michael Knight iconic. The car felt like the main character. Mike just came with the keys. When bad guys from his mysterious past show up, the FBI solution is to fake his death and give him a new identity. Because apparently witness protection now comes with a government expense account and a sentient muscle car. Mike Tracer is declared dead, and just like that, Michael Knight II is born. Speaking of that company car, they replaced the iconic Trans Am with a Ford Mustang that could shapeshift into other vehicles. Because when you're trying to recapture the magic of the 80s, nothing says authenticity like a corporate tie-in with the 2008 Ford lineup. The new KITT was voiced by Val Kilmer, who sounded like he was reading his lines during a root canal. Gone was William Daniels' dry British charm.
Do you wish further information on Silicon Valley?
In its place, we got an AI that sounded like a customer service bot having an existential crisis.
Please step away from the car, or I will be forced to take defensive measures.
Although, I have to admit, the scene of KITT screaming still makes me cackle like a hyena.
Not on the turn, Michael.
It's no fun being predictable. Can't you scream like a girl?
Sure, this KITT could transform into trucks, fire missiles, and probably do your taxes, but he had all the personality of a dial-up modem. They even brought back turbo boost, sort of. It was now called attack mode, and it relied heavily on CGI. Some fans thought the effects were cool and gave Kit some impressive tricks, but others missed the real stunts and grounded action of the original. When you grew up watching actual Trans Ams fly through the air, a digital leap just doesn't hit the same.
Yes, but can your car do this?
The show's tone went from camp classic to government conspiracy thriller because apparently what Knight Rider really needed was more NSA surveillance and fewer leather jackets. Instead of the Foundation for Law and Government, we got a shadowy black ops agency that handed out memory wipes like office birthday cake. Just another Tuesday at the workplace. And yes, they brought back Carr in the episode Knight to King's Pawn with Peter Cullen. Yes, Optimus Prime himself returning to voice him. Fans were excited, and on paper it was a cool idea. But the new Carr transformed into a full-on humanoid robot with wheels for legs. Some viewers were into it. Others felt like they'd accidentally changed the channel to Transformers, the mid-season mistake.
My analysis indicates that Kit is a potential threat. I will not allow for the possibility of being shut down again.
What did you think of the new Carr, though? Let us know in the comment section below. Despite the TV movie pulling solid ratings, the actual series couldn't hold on to viewers. Between flat characters, weak writing, and uneven effects, fans bailed fast. NBC tried to retool the show halfway through, cutting cast and changing direction, but it was too late. The show limped to 17 episodes before it was quietly cancelled. The original Knight Rider gave us
shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
The 2008 version gave us a confused detour through a Ford dealership staffed by people who've never seen the original show. They didn't just reboot Knight Rider, they took our nostalgia, ran it through a corporate shredder, and sold us back the pieces. And somehow they made us miss David Hasselhoff's acting. That's not just bad television, that's a slow motion jump into disappointment. Number 4, Get Smart, Fox. Get Smart was comedy perfection disguised as a spy spoof. From 1965 to 1970, Don Adams gave us Agent Maxwell Smart, a bumbling but somehow effective spy who battled the evil organization Chaos with gadgets that barely worked and timing that absolutely did. The show was a masterpiece in physical comedy. Adams had this incredible ability to deliver absurd lines with complete sincerity, making Smart's incompetence somehow endearing. The Cone of Silence, the most ironically loud piece of spy tech ever.
Okay, Chief, go ahead.
Dr. Waldo Smith.
What?
Dr. Waldo Smith of our PLK lab, the man who invented the stolen formula 60767.
And who can forget the shoe phone?
Hello, Control.
Oh, and that catchphrase?
Missed it by that much.
These were comedy gold that worked because Adams sold every ridiculous moment with perfect timing and because the show knew exactly how long to milk the gags before letting them collapse under their own absurdity. The 1989 reunion movie, Get Smart Again, had done well enough to convince Fox that there was life left in this franchise, so when 1995 rolled around, they looked at this 1960s comedy classic and said, "Nobody asked for this, but we're gonna give it to them anyway." The reboot brought back Don Adams and Barbara Feldon, but this time Max was the chief and Agent 99 had become a congresswoman. Dave Ketchum returned as Agent 13 and Bernie Capel came back as the villainous Siegfried. Max and 99's son Zach, played by Andy Dick, was now the bumbling hero, carrying on the family tradition of accidentally saving the world. Zach was one of the twins introduced in the original series' 5th season, but the revival focused entirely on him. His twin sister didn't appear in the show at all, which disappointed some fans who remembered her from the original. At least the reboot kept one tradition alive. We still never learned Agent 99's real name, maintaining one of the original series' most enduring running gags. That said, the reboot wasn't without bright spots. Don Adams was still Don Adams. The man was a comedy legend, and watching him as the chief made perfect sense for the character.
You're not going to ask how I am, right?
I'm sorry, Max. How are you?
Don't ask.
But the show itself felt like a time capsule that nobody wanted to open. Variety called the series premiere decidedly unfunny and said it could have clearly benefited from some input from Buck Henry or at the very least a phone call from Mel Brooks. When critics are begging for the original creators to save your show, you know you're in trouble. By 1995, comedy had evolved. Gen X audiences, who mostly knew Get Smart from afternoon reruns and Don Adams' voice from Inspector Gadget, were watching Friends, Seinfeld, and The Simpsons. Broad physical comedy and spy spoofs felt like relics from their parents' era, even though many of us had grown up enjoying them in syndication.
Dad. I'm not in my shoes right now. If you're calling about the ad for the Common Gear, press 1. If you're calling with top secret information, press 2 and leave a message.
The original Get Smart worked because it was perfectly tuned to the Cold War paranoia and camp sensibilities of the 1960s. The reboot was trying to recapture that magic in a world that had moved on to irony and cynicism. The gadgets felt forced, the timing was off, and even Barbara Feldon later said it was obvious from day one that the show had been taken out of its time.
This was stolen by a designer named Lars.
What? I can't understand you.
Holy cow, we've got the bases loaded and nobody out.
The show lasted exactly 7 episodes. 7. Chaos couldn't have sabotaged it more effectively. With an average of 5 million viewers per episode, it ranked 133rd for 1995, which tells you everything you need to know about how audiences received it. Fox pulled the plug so fast you'd think the network itself was under attack by evil spy organizations. Making matters worse, there weren't even high hopes for the series from the start. Andy Dick had already moved on to News Radio, which premiered just weeks later on NBC. Talk about a vote of no confidence from your lead actor. Interestingly, this made Get Smart the first television franchise to air new episodes on all 4 major American networks: NBC and CBS for the original, ABC for the reunion movie, and Fox for the short-lived revival. That's actually kind of impressive, even if the final chapter was a bit of a disappointment. The failed reboot proved something important. Some comedy is so tied to a specific time and place that trying to recreate it decades later feels like archaeological excavation. The original Get Smart wasn't just about Don Adams' perfect delivery, it was about capturing a very specific moment in American culture when we could laugh at spies and Cold War paranoia. By 1995, that moment had passed. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do to a classic is let it stay perfect in our memories. Get Smart 95 reminded us that some things don't need a reboot, not because they can't be improved, but because they already nailed it the first time. Number 3, The Love Boat, The Next Wave, UPN.
Love, exciting and new.
The original Love Boat was comfort food TV at its finest, a weekly dose of disco-era optimism that sailed through ABC's Saturday night lineup from 1977 to 1986. For 9 glorious seasons, the Pacific Princess delivered 250 episodes of pure escapist entertainment, where every cruise brought new guest stars, romantic entanglements, and problems that could be solved with a smile and one of Isaac's signature cocktails. The show was formulaic in the best possible way. 3 interwoven storylines per episode, guest stars ranging from comedy icons to fading film stars looking for TV work, and a crew that felt like your favorite relatives. Captain Steubing, played by Gavin MacLeod, was the warm grandfather figure. Doc, played by Bernie Capel, was the lovable rogue. Isaac, played by Ted Lange, delivered one-liners while mixing drinks. Gopher, played by Fred Grandy, was the affable goofball, and Julie, played by Lauren Tweez, kept everything and everyone on schedule. It was cheesy, sure, but it was deliberately, gloriously cheesy. This wasn't just a show either, it was a cultural phenomenon that made cruise booking spike and turned the Love Boat theme song into something you still can't get out of your head. Then, 1998 rolled around and UPN, the network still trying to figure out how to program between Moesha and Star Trek Voyager, decided the Love Boat needed updating for the modern era.
Love, exciting and new. Come aboard, we're expecting you.
The next wave gave us Robert Urich as Captain Jim Kennedy III, a divorced Navy officer now commanding a cruise ship and raising a teenage son. UPN aimed for a slicker, more modern presentation while keeping the original's 3-story format of romance, comedy, and light drama. Robert Urich was no stranger to leading a series. He'd headlined Spencer for Hire and Vegas. His version of the captain brought more polish and edge, which some appreciated as more realistic. Others felt the performance was stiff and the warmth was missing. Kyle Howard played Danny Kennedy, the captain's son, and actually won over some viewers who found him more fun and refreshing than Vicky. He'd later go on to star in My Boys and Royal Pains, but here he was the token teenager meant to help the show feel relevant to anyone under 30. The new crew tried to capture the spirit of the original, and to their credit, some pieces clicked. Suzanne Zimmerman and Heidi Mark played cruise director Nicole Jordan in different seasons. Randy Vasquez was Paulo Kerr, the charming bar manager. Phil Morris, who many viewers knew as Jackie Childs from Seinfeld, played purser Will Sanders. Corey Parker stepped in as the ship's doctor John Morgan, also known as Doc, and Joan Severance rounded out the cast as Camille Hunter, the ship's no-nonsense security chief. On paper, they felt like modern echoes of the original show, but despite their efforts, the chemistry just wasn't the same. The original cast had this breezy, unforced charm that made even the corniest plot lines work. The reboot felt like it had been cast by an algorithm, then run through a test audience for notes. Even worse, the next wave never seemed sure what it wanted to be. It kept the original's three-story format of romance, comedy, and drama, but layered it under a slicker, more sophisticated tone that tried to blend workplace drama with lighthearted escapism. Captain Kennedy's backstory as a divorced ex-Navy officer adjusting to cruise life added a more serious undercurrent, while the rest of the ship juggled guest mishaps and love triangles. The result was a show that felt tonally muddled. The original knew exactly what it was: breezy, unpretentious fun that never took itself too seriously. The revival, in trying to modernize, lost some of that clarity and a lot of the charm that made the first one sail. To its credit, the show did try to honor its roots with a reunion episode that brought back Gavin MacLeod, Bernie Capel, Ted Lange, Lauren Tweez, and Jill Wellen. That episode revealed Doc and Julie had been in love all along, a sweet touch that reminded viewers what they'd been missing. But one nostalgic episode couldn't save a reboot that had fundamentally misunderstood its own premise. Remember the Bermuda Triangle episode? Several crew members experienced temporary powers. Danny could read minds, the chief purser Will turned into 3 people, and the captain spoke to his deceased father. It was wild and a departure from the show's usual format. The show lasted 25 episodes over 2 seasons before UPN pulled the plug. Critics were underwhelmed, with Entertainment Weekly giving it a D+ and calling it exactly what it was: a pale imitation of something that had worked the first time. Number 2, The Odd Couple, CBS. The original Odd Couple on ABC wasn't just a sitcom, it was a masterclass in character comedy. From 1970 to 1975, Tony Randall's Felix Unger and Jack Klugman's Oscar Madison created TV magic as perfectly mismatched roommates whose neuroses and chemistry turned everyday situations into comedy gold. Randall brought a fussy precision to Felix that made his obsessive cleanliness oddly endearing. Klugman's Oscar was a lovable slob whose mess wasn't just physical, it was philosophical. Together, they created one of television's most iconic friendships. Underneath all the bickering, you believed these two genuinely cared about each other.
Oh, no. For some strange reason, Gloria left.
I don't blame her. When this thing itches, I get so cranky.
What are you doing out of bed? What are you doing in here?
I missed you.
The show worked because it understood something fundamental. Great comedy comes from character, not just situations. Felix and Oscar weren't caricatures. They were fully realized people with flaws you could recognize and a bond that you could root for. Naturally, TV execs looked at this success and thought, let's do it again, and again, with different people. First came 1982's The New Odd Couple on ABC, starring Ron Glass and Damond Wilson in an updated African-American version of the classic duo.
Galoshes? In here? Oscar, we just had our carpets cleaned. Would you please take those off outside? Oscar, did you bring them?
On paper, the casting made sense. Both actors were sitcom veterans with strong chops, but a writer's strike derailed any momentum. 8 of the early episodes simply recycled scripts from the original. It's hard to build new chemistry using words written for completely different performers. The show lasted just 18 episodes before fading quietly into the void. And hey, if you do remember the new Odd Couple, you're in rare company because most people blinked and missed it entirely. Then came the most high-profile attempt, CBS's 2015 reboot starring Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon. It looked like a slam dunk. Perry was still a big name from Friends, and Lennon had years of comedy cred from Reno 911 and dozens of scene-stealing roles, but the spark never caught.
This one? Right here? Yes or no? Yes or no, dumbass? Yes, Lieutenant. Ah!
Perry's Oscar felt less like a lovable slob and more like someone stuck in a permanent state of burnout. His signature sarcasm didn't translate to Oscar's everyman charm. Meanwhile, Lennon's Felix lacked the warmth that Randall brought to the role. Instead of neurotic and lovable, he was just neurotic. The balance was off, and so was the chemistry. From the start, something felt forced. Lines landed like cue cards, not conversations. The laugh track practically begged viewers to chuckle at material that didn't deserve it.
Casey and me.
And me, but you'll see that when you read the card.
An actual Verschlagen.
What is it, like a fancy vacuum?
Are you kidding me? The Verschlagen makes the Wolfmartin look like a Steinlutz.
And the writing was just generic sitcom setups that could have been lifted from any Odd Couple style comedy. Gone was the nuanced, character-driven humor that made the original stand out. CBS gave it a real shot with 3 seasons, though with shorter episode orders than the original. But audiences just weren't buying it. The premiere pulled in over 11 million viewers, and by season 3, it was down to just 6 million, a steep drop that told its own story. The network shuffled it from Thursdays to Mondays, trying to find its footing, but if a show keeps moving around the schedule, it usually means one thing. The network sees potential, the audience doesn't. The biggest problem was that it wasn't terrible, it was just bland and forgettable. A beige placeholder in the sitcom lineup. At least bad shows get remembered. This one barely even left a mark. When it ended in 2017, it felt like a mercy cancellation. Perry quietly stepped away to focus on recovery in the years that followed. He passed in 2023, leaving behind a career full of unforgettable moments and a reminder that even misfires are part of the story. Lennon went back to his prolific career as a comedy writer and character actor. All these failed reboots prove one thing. Some shows work not because of the premise, but because of who's in it. You can't capture that magic by plugging in new faces and hoping for the best. Tony Randall and Jack Klugman didn't just play Felix and Oscar, they were Felix and Oscar. That kind of chemistry isn't cast, it's earned. When you try to remake a classic, you risk reminding people why the original didn't need fixing in the first place. Number 1, The X-Files. Fox. Okay, we know what you're thinking. The revival wasn't that bad, and sure, seeing Mulder and Scully again gave us all the feels, but let's be real here. The original X-Files was pure television magic. The revival felt more like someone tried to recreate that magic with a knockoff wand from the dollar store. From 1993 to 2002, Chris Carter's show tapped into our deepest fears. Government conspiracies, alien invasions, unresolved sexual tension. You know, the big stuff. It struck the perfect balance between myth arc and monster of the week, and Mulder and Scully's dynamic was iconic. Then came 2016. Chris Carter brought the X-Files back from the dead with a 6-episode event promising closure and long-awaited answers. What we got instead was a murky grab bag of retcons and plot holes that somehow made season 9 look coherent. The cigarette-smoking man came back from the dead, again, without any real explanation. This time he survived a missile strike. How? Don't ask. The alien colonization plot, which had anchored 9 seasons, was tossed aside like a bad dream. Turns out the whole thing was just a smokescreen for a human-led depopulation plan. You heard that right. CSM now claims it was him all along. And Scully's son William? Well, his backstory got messier than a Thanksgiving dinner with the Kardashians. Trying to untangle the mythology in 6 episodes was like solving a jigsaw puzzle while someone kept dumping new pieces from unrelated boxes. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, bam, 10 more episodes in 2018 that only made things more confusing. That dramatic cliffhanger in season 10 of Mulder dying from an alien virus and chaos breaking out across the country. Oh, and that UFO that was hovering over a collapsing bridge had fans buzzing.
Mulder, I'm here.
He saved your life. Old Smokey. I suppose I should thank him.
Finally, stakes, answers, maybe even closure. No. Season 11 opened by revealing the whole thing was just a vision sent to Scully by William. Apparently that close-up of her eye at the end of season 10 was supposed to clue us in. Yeah, we missed that too. The old "it was just a dream" twist, TV's equivalent of unplugging the router and hoping the problem goes away. But the real issue wasn't just the storytelling, it was the timing. The X-Files originally hit during an era when conspiracy theories were niche and the internet was still on dial-up. By 2016, conspiracy culture had gone mainstream, and the show suddenly felt less like cutting-edge commentary and more like your uncle's Facebook feed. Duchovny and Anderson did their best, but they were trapped in a show that didn't know what era it was in. It was like your favorite band doing a reunion tour, but only playing their weird deep cuts while the audience begged for Monster of the Week. And the treatment of secondary characters? Whew. The lone gunman, fan favorites who died heroically in the original series, got a blink and you'll miss it cameo in a Mulder drug trip. No real moment, no closure, just a visual gag that felt more like a contractual nod than an actual return. Skinner got one decent backstory episode, but for most of the revival, he was relegated to sidekick duty, reduced from trusted ally to glorified background extra. And then there's Monica Reyes. Originally a thoughtful and empathetic agent, she was reintroduced as a full-on cigarette-smoking man flunky with barely any explanation. The fan response was loud and not very polite at all. But the real jaw-dropper came when the show revealed that CSM, using alien science, was actually William's father, having artificially impregnated Scully without her knowledge. It wasn't just a creative leap, it was a full-on faceplant into the writer's room carpet. Fans were horrified. And when Chris Carter tried to soften the blow by claiming it was all meant figuratively, the damage was already done. Most viewers didn't buy it, and many wished the revival had just not. Here's the thing. The revival was a massive ratings hit initially, drawing over 16 million viewers for the premiere. Audiences wanted to believe, but even huge ratings couldn't mask the creative disappointment. The standalone episodes were actually pretty good. It was the mythology episodes that made fans want to forget the whole thing happened. At the end of the day, the revival proved that some stories are better left alone. Instead of giving fans closure, it reopened old wounds, then rubbed confusion in them for good measure. Because in the end, the truth was out there. Unfortunately, in 2016, it got lost somewhere between a retcon about alien DNA and the realization that some mysteries are better left unsolved. So, there you have it, 5 reboots that proved some classics should just stay buried in the nostalgic past where they belong. Which of these reboot disasters offended your nostalgic soul the most? Did we miss one that still haunts your streaming queue? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a new episode of Remember When.